Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this public event hosted by Notary Stars. Today is Monday, February 27th, 2023, and this event is being recorded, so everybody will have access to the replay. I'm really excited to be here today, and we're so glad that you guys can make it too. We'll be discussing how to get behind your IPEN and RON platforms and sell them to your clients for general notary work and loan signings. First and most important, as usual, if you're watching this live and driving, please make sure you're in listen-only mode so that you can keep your eyes on the road. And there's going to be a replay of the event that you can come back to later. And if you're watching the replay while you're in your car, please keep your eyes on the road. We really care about you and want you to remain safe. If you feel this topic might not apply to you, please put that thought aside and continue listening, because remote online notarization and IPEN is already affecting your business. There are currently pioneer notaries out there who've learned the platforms already, and they're doing electronic signings daily. Even if you're in a state that doesn't allow electronic notarizations, this conversation can help you get prepared and help you get caught up when your state does authorize electronic notarizations. Notary Stars has a great deal of information about RON for free in our blog section. And if you're a member of Notary Stars, you have access to even more RON line training sessions and RON safety training. Tonight, we have some of the biggest names in electronic notarizations joining in to guide us. We have Amy Moses and Brendan Weiss from Escrow Tab. Hi, Amy. Hi, Brendan. I don't know if Brendan's on.
Hello, Beth. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here. We have Amy Seitz from Cyberize It. Hey, Miss Amy.
Good evening, everyone. It's going to get confusing with the Amy squared, right?
I know. Amy M and Amy S, I guess.
There we go. And then we also have James Mitchell from eNotary Log. Hi, James. First time meeting you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, we have our very own RON instructor, Mr. Bill Bumfrey, who's also a full-time successful RON notary out of Nevada. Hey, Bill. I know you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
It's probably going to be one of the most educational RON events of the year. So sit back, stretch a little bit, and get ready for information overload. It might just feel a little like trying to get a drink from a fire hydrant tonight, but you got the replay, so you can revisit it here. Mr. Ronnie, this is your cue. Are you ready to kick us off?
I am. I just want to ask Miss Amy Moses, is Brendan with us yet, so I can get him pinned up here as well?
Yep, he said he was just able to join, Ronnie.
Okay, let me get him. Miss Beth, if you could look for him and pin him up, that'd be great.
Bet.
So yes, I want to get this kicked off because I have a feeling that this could go a little over, and you know, Notary Stars is notorious for that. But we know that we got to get through this information. So the first thing that I want to say is that we all know that RON and IPEN both alike can open up doors for us as notaries to expand our businesses. And one of the reasons that we're doing this session is, you know, self-included. Right now at Unlimited Inc., I'm hearing a lot of excuses from notaries and self-included of, I don't know how to sell this product to my clients. I don't know how to have that conversation with my clients. And here's just some things that I've collected, but they are statements, and you've probably heard yourself saying these before. So the very first one is, my state doesn't allow RON yet, or they don't allow IPEN yet. Okay, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be having this conversation today, because it's coming to all states. It just might be a little slower, and it might not be in, you know, the next 6 months, but it'll probably be within a year or 2 years. And being ahead of the curve is going to be very important for you to catch some of that business. I see notaries telling me I don't see a need for it yet. And I have to say these little tidbits here. I have a great notary that worked with us in Show Low, Arizona. She charged $175 to $250 a seller file because she was the only notary in Show Low, Arizona. And she told me about a year ago, she said, I have no idea where my business is going. And I said, I do. They're tired of paying because you're the only notary in the area those really high rates, and they're now sending it out to Ron. Had she been a RON notary, she could have kept that business and not had to drive at all. So that's a lot of these excuses have, you know, tidbits after them. I'm not that high tech. Well, guess what? Most of you don't need to be high tech. The platform does all the technology for you. You just have to know how to be a notary, right? Like you have to know how to be a loan signing agent. They just want me to make less money. This is a big one. They just want me to make less money because we see platform fees. Some platforms have them, some have higher, some have lower, but they're not, no one's intentionally trying to make you make less money, right? That's why we're having this conversation, so we can learn how to have that conversation about our platforms. Now, there may be some platforms out there who I won't name right now, but they're not here, and because they probably don't care enough about our community to be here. But they may not they may not care about how much you're making, but the platforms we see here actually care about your well-being and your business, and so that's why they're here today. Why should I pay for something if it doesn't bring me money? We're going to get to that tonight. And then here's the one I hear: I bought this darn RON platform or IPEN platform, and I haven't gotten one client. Well, guess what? We're going to address that here tonight. I want to say this, and then we're going to move into some questions. But how many of you bought a notary stamp and a journal and a pen, and poof, the business just appeared before you? Not a single one of you. Oh, Miss Debbie, you raised your hand. You must be an in-house notary for a boss, because none of us here probably just bought it and poof, there it was. You know, we had to tell people who we were. We had to go out and explain what we do. We had to sign up with platforms left and right. These are things that we have to do. And my business partner, Travis, says it really best, because we have a lot of notaries call us and say, hey, if I buy Cyberize It or eNotary Log or IPEN or Notarize or whatever, are you guys going to put me to work? And Travis always says, and I'm going to read this. You guys know I'm not good with scripted, but he always says a RON or IPEN platform cannot guarantee you business. The only thing that you can be guaranteed that you are a business owner and you need to make business decisions. So that's why we're having this conversation today, because I wanted to kind of crack open the conversation about, like, hey, once I buy this product, you know, you guys, we have it on Notary Stars. You can go through several platforms and compare them, and we have tear sheets. We're inviting in more. We have a Blue Notary presenting to us later this month. We keep inviting these platforms in and making relationships with them, those that will talk to us. And so, you know, that's what this is about tonight. How, once I buy this platform, any platform, how do I actually have that conversation with my signing services and my title companies on how to use me for it? And so I just want to ask you guys, you know, as all the panelists here, can you guys agree with me that after a notary is selected their platform, the very first step is actually learning how to use that platform, right? You know, this is, I think the very first step is you got to know how to use it. And I will tell you from experience at Unlimited Ink, I had a notary just 2 weekends ago, and it was their first notarization, and it went south really fast because they didn't know how to use their platform. And everybody goes in and pins in, hey, I can do this, I can do this. But I'm going to tell you the very first step, and I know the panelists will agree, is, you know, if you don't know how to use the platform you have no conversation to start with, right? And I want to encourage everybody here. I believe all of these platforms have some kind of testing situation where you can go in, you can learn how to use it, you can practice. And I even had notaries at Notary Stars posting in the Facebook groups like, hey, will you practice with me? Can we do a test transaction? I will say this too, because I see notaries being really cheap business owners, okay? You got to think like a real business owner. If it costs you $10 or $40 or $30 to run a couple of test transactions, write that off at the end of the year as test transactions so that you can learn to use your platform so that when you're called on, you are ready. Now we're going to move into it because I know we have a lot to go into, and you guys know I'm terrible at scripting. So I will be looking off to the side a little bit here. I want to know from the panelists, like everybody here, how often do you see notaries purchasing your electronic platforms and then they sit there and go, I don't know, I haven't gotten any business. Anybody want to lead with that? Because I'm sure every single one of them have heard it.
I'll go. So I see notaries every day sign up enthusiastic, and then they don't actually go out and sell the product. They don't sell that aspect of the service. I would wager in the last week, I've deactivated, because of canceled subscriptions, 10 people, and they never even did a practice transaction on our platform. Never did anything. And we actually turned one off. We have emailed this notary for 6 months. She's never responded. We've never been able to activate her because we can't find her on the Secretary of State's website, but yet she was paying the monthly fee for 6 months. So we went in and just canceled her. We stopped it because I won't keep taking money if you're not going to respond. But yeah, we have the ones that do it and get business are the ones that are adamant and they are available. I tell all the notaries, you need to be confident, you need to be clear, and you need to be consistent with your clients. Because once you get in there, you may not always know the answer. And I think that's what stumbles people. You just got to be confident. Don't lie, but be confident in the answers you give them. And that will help transition the clients. But yeah, we see that a lot every day.
What about Amy Moses? Do you guys have the same situation?
Yeah, we do. And Amy, your points were excellent. And I think we see two different groups of people, right? We see those that go ahead and complete the sign up process, invest in a tablet, and then sit and wait for the business to come to them, like Ronnie has mentioned. Or we have the people who, as soon as they get their tablet, they're out there demoing it to title companies and signing services, right? So they're not waiting for the business to come to them, and they're sharing with us, oh gosh, I have a demo tomorrow, just want to make sure everything's set up, right? And we're here for them to communicate with us. And so it's so refreshing to hear when people are out there showing it to their business partners. So yep, definitely two different sectors.
And then Mr. James, what about you? Do you see this same thing as well?
Absolutely. Over here at Notary Log, not to beat a horse, but we see this all the time. And I think the first and second question are actually quite related. I see a relation between the ones that do practice tend to be the ones that succeed. You practice to become comfortable with your platform, you understand what its capabilities are, and you're that much better at selling the platform itself. What you're talking about. And everyone else can feel that in the room with you. When you start taking on sessions, you're not as nervous, and you're able to just roll on through and start collecting business as you move on. So we do see this quite often. I do find that ones that practice are the ones that succeed.
And let me ask you guys, do all three of you collectively have a way for the notaries to actually practice in the sessions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We do, yeah. And Ronnie, I'll just expand on that a bit. For Escrow Tab, part of our training is that we upload test documents. And then Brittany, who I know some of you are familiar with, who is our trainer, she walks through how to do test transactions. And she says, don't do this before the training, right? Wait until we have the training so we can all do it and work through it together.
Thank you. Now I want to break this conversation into two halves because we really have two conversations as notaries and loan signing agents, right? There are two types of customers for us, really. We have the general public, and then we have title and escrow, really, or our attorney clients. And so I want to start with general notary work, and I'm going to read this, exactly as I wrote it. For Amy Seitz, is it true for general notary work that all documents can be notarized online, or are there some documents that just can't be done online?
There's always going to be something that can't be done. And whether it's dependent upon your state law, for instance, in Louisiana, they cannot notarize a free act online, which a free act means there's two witnesses to the signature. And then you run into, like here in Ohio, I can't do an online deposition, but other states can. So it doesn't mean that it can't be done online. It just can't be done by me. All right.
Okay.
Now, that also being said, we have to look at not just state law, we have to look at the receiving agency. And we don't have a database of this, but I know there's one location in Ashtabula, Ohio, that will not take an online notarized document for the vehicle sale. I also know the entire state of North Carolina will not take an electronic document for a vehicle sale. And I know that if, and I thought this expired, but then I saw something else, but if we do an I-9 online, the moment they physically get back into the office, they've got to redo it within 3 days. So what's the point of doing it online, you know? So it's going to vary by receiving agency as well. And just because it's legal to do it does not mean the receiving agency has to accept it. They can deny it and make them go to a traditional old school notary.
Thank you. And then I'm going to start with you on the loan signing agent side, Mr. James, but do you concur with what Amy said there that, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Each state, of course, has their nuances. We do have a nice bit of conformity across the US, but every state is special. Everyone has their own little nuances. To really get ahead of that, I do recommend reaching out to the receiving party of these documents and just checking out beforehand, before you get on the road, and just make sure that it's an online document. That really helps clear everything up.
Yep. And now I want to ask Amy Moses, because IPEN is a different type of technology, right? So it's not like RON. Can you notarize every document through IPEN?
Yeah, it is a little bit different. And one thing that we found, which is reassuring for everyone familiar with RON, is it seems that anything that you can do via RON, you can also do via IPEN, right? So that's the great news. There are still definitely limitations, and I'll start with the loan signing side, right? There's some states that still don't accept IPEN, not as many as don't accept RON, but there's still a handful. And there are some investors that don't accept it yet. So we're working on that adoption on the lender side of things. And then with general notary work and specialty notary work, we are actually in the research and development phase for that. So we realize that it hasn't really been dug into yet as far as how IPEN can work for general notary work. And we want to make that happen for all of you. And we're hoping to roll that out within the next couple of months. And Amy, one of the things you said was something that we've heard a lot in the past week was about the electronic documents for vehicle sales in North Carolina. And so we're gaining feedback from notaries and gathering that and determining what can and can't be done via IPEN for general notary work.
Awesome. You guys are, I love that this conversation is starting. So what we've gotten to right now, and I want to kind of recap from the first. So the first thing is you kind of master your RON platform. And now what I'm hearing, and I think what all notaries need to hear if they want to become a successful RON agent, is first you master that platform, then let's start with general notary work alone. You need to research what you can and cannot do within your state. And I hope that you guys are taking notes, and I'll try to have notes after this posted with the replay as well. So you start by mastering your platform, then you start asking, what can I do and what can I not do? And subnote there, you have to make sure the receiving party of the document you're going to notarize is going to accept it. Miss Amy?
I'm going to say no, it is not our job to check the receiving party. Here's why. If I call agency 123 and they tell me on the phone that they'll take it, but then another agent gets the document and it's refused, then it's my fault. Always have the customer verify, not the notary.
Okay.
So it's not our ball, you know.
I appreciate that. Actually, that is exactly how we handle it at Unlimited Inc. When we do perform RONs, we say you do need to check your receiving party to ensure that it'll be accepted, because we don't, as you guys know at Notary Stars, it works the same way at Unlimited Inc. I don't do refunds. So, you know, we make sure to give them all of that lingo. Now, there is a second side of this conversation, and I wanted to break this down, and I'm going to start with Mr. James on this. You know, a lot of people think that when they buy a RON platform, all of a sudden loans are going to show up in their pipeline. They're going to be coming out left and right from signing order or SnapDocs, you know, if you're a RON notary, but it's not that quite that simple, right? So let's start with you on this question. How do you think a notary goes about letting their signing agencies and their direct title companies know about their RON platform? If you were just a notary, right? You weren't the founder of eNotaryLog or the president, or I'm sorry, don't know exactly the title. I got to look at everybody's signature. I know so many people nowadays, but if you weren't who you were and you had to walk into a direct title company, how would you walk in the door, and what would you say to your clients to get them to use your platform?
It's a great question. I would start off right with the bottom line. That speaks to most people here. And I would say, number one, you just cannot beat the efficiencies you gain from a digitized workflow. You're cutting out all these inefficiencies in the traditional process. You now, as a notary, can reach not only people across the state, but across the country, even students who are traveling abroad. They're now within your grasp. And with that cut down of inefficiency, that means more time to generate revenue. That means more transactions they can push through as just a single agent. Furthermore, I would note that as a notary with this platform behind me, I now am better equipped to handle the job of notarization. I have this technology behind me. I can leverage this technology to provide more security against fraud. And with the platform, I'm able to cut out any errors or issues that might occur in a normal transaction. Here, I'm coming through a little choppy here. Can anyone hear me?
We can, Mr. James, but from the beginning, it's been a little choppy. I don't know if you would want to try to dial in to the meeting. I can post that in the chat for you as well. Give me 1 second to post that in, because we do want to hear every word you're saying, because it's good information here. Let's see, copy invitation. And I'm sending you directly a little the information on how to dial in.
Or if you have a second microphone, you can switch.
Yeah, I'm trying my microphone now.
That is so much better.
There we go. Apologies for that. Okay, I'll start from the top real quick then. I would start with enumerating the efficiencies. You will now have the ability to reach people across the state, across the country, even across the world, signers who are traveling abroad. And that cut down on travel time and those other efficiencies means there's more time for you to make more transactions that happen, which means more revenue for both you and your partner. Furthermore, once you've mastered your platform, you can set up these transactions to help avoid common mistakes or errors that can happen when processing these kinds of transactions. We find that it substantially reduces errors when you move to a digitized workflow. Furthermore, you can always charge your negotiated fees or add additional fees. So it's not like you're necessarily reducing yourself or shooting yourself in the foot by going this direction. And I would say, finally, this is the future. This is where the market's headed, everyone. And now's the time to make this change before you're left behind.
Yep. Now, I do want Amy's site's opinion on that. But before you go, I want to ask, Amy Moses, if you have anything to put, because I'm going to kind of take it in a different direction. Do you have any input to put on top of that?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, I would say make sure that the title company or escrow officer, signing service, whoever you're talking to, understands the difference between IPEN and RON, because we've received that question a lot, right? And a lot of times people still aren't familiar with IPEN. I've tried to do a lot of thought leadership over the past year to explain what it is, but really making sure they understand it's an in-person electronic signing and electronic notarizing platform. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, some of the things that James said resonates too, right? That there's a lot of cost savings. And for those of you who've seen the demo of Escrow Tab, the reduction of errors and no missing signatures is a huge benefit for the escrow officer. The speed post-closing that title companies can get immediate access back to the documents is a big one, and get those right back to lenders. The security that it provides, where the documents, once they're signed, go right into Escrow Tab's eVault and can only be accessed by anybody who has access to the platform. And then the relationship management, right? And we like to say that there's still that ceremonial celebration at the closing table for those people who still want to have that. And the relationship management can still happen between escrow officer and loan officer and realtor and borrower and all of that. So those are 5 key points that we always recommend that notaries talk to their title companies or escrow officers about. And we do have that in a format that we can provide to this group as well. So those would be my tips, Ronnie.
Awesome, thank you. Now I'm going to take this in a slightly different direction and call on Amy Seitz for this. And first of all, and not to leave Escrow Tab out, because it's a different technology, right? So I'm not leaving you out of this conversation, but for the RON platforms, okay? One thing that I've really appreciated about eNotaryLog and Amy Seitz is the moderate pricing platform, the moderate pricing that they provide notaries. And we all know that there are larger companies that have gone out and attended escrow officers at conferences throughout the country and bartered for business first. They were there first. You know, when you're there first, you're the first one, and they got approved to be that company. And when you walk in the door, there might be that, well, we're already with Notarize. And this is why we're learning to educate, right? Because, I'm going to say this out loud, and again, I'll say it right into the camera, Notarize sue me, because I am talking the truth, and this is how it works. So I have a great appreciation for Amy Seitz and James Mitchell and, Amy Moses and everybody who's, technology costs money, right? Like it's not free. We don't, and you can't just snap your fingers and poof. You have technology that makes your life easier and better. It costs money to use. What I want to know, Miss Amy Seitz, is how, let's say you walked into a title company and they said, well, we're already with Notarize. We already have a RON platform. What would be your next rebuttal? You know, I have a rebuttal, but I want to hear from you on well, if you already have a solution, where would you go from there? How would you educate them that that solution is not beneficial to notaries at all, and say, well, I have an alternative solution for you?
I would probably go on the tangent of they're losing that customer experience. So while we can all perform it online and it can be done, when you utilize what I call a big box company, it's robotic. They're not going to get any kind of connection to the notary, and they lose that ultimate feel-good feeling. You know, it turns it into a transaction. And then the client might get it done, but they don't always feel good about it. Or sometimes they'll feel rushed because it is so robotic. So being an independent notary and having that customer connection, I can make the experience for the client much more beneficial to them, especially if they run into technical difficulties. I'll have their information up front. I'm able to communicate with them. I'm able to walk them through the aspects that I'm legally allowed to, you know, and overall, they'll be much more satisfied and more pleased ultimately with title because of the experience they had with me versus the big box company.
And I have to interject on here, because one of the biggest selling points of Unlimited Ink Notary, and I'm still learning about RON and IPEN and all of these things that I can do. One of the biggest conversations that we have with our client, and I don't know where I learned to do this, but we would go in and our clients would be like, well, we're going to give you Notarize. We'll give you everything paper, but we're going to go with Notarize. And I thought, because now you're going to be paying our notaries $25. And a lot of them didn't even know that. So I did bring up the pricing point of what they're going to be getting on the other side. The maximum a notary could get, they're going to try to push it for 15 and then 25. So we were able to pull back a lot of those clients and get other platforms like eNotaryLog, Cyberize It, approved with our clients by having that conversation, but we didn't make it all about money. Here's where we had the pivotal conversation, what Amy said with customer service. So what we were finding with, and we were asking and probing questions, well, what don't you like about Notarize? Is there something that we could do better than them? What they didn't like is they put in their order and it goes into as like a cattle call. They don't know who the notary is or what it's going to be. They have no communication with them. And if it fails, getting through KVA or any of those things, they don't know until it's too late, and they might have missed their funding because, you know, as we all know, everybody wants to close yesterday. So we started offering you the ability to get eNotary Log approved. Can you get Cyberize it approved? Can you get this approved? So we have viable solutions. And I actually had a conversation with Amrock recently, and I asked them, this is, you know, their partner management. And I said, and basically what I was told, it boiled down to this. They start everything RON if it's available, then it moves to IPEN, then it moves to paper. Paper is now their last option for a client. They want everything, and they're one of the biggest lenders in the entire country right now. So to all the panelists here, I want to see if you guys individually could do this, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but you guys knew I was going to ask anyway. Is there any way that you could help notaries within your platforms with maybe a tear sheet of something that if they were walking in trying to sell this product, that they would have a sort of scripting that they would be able to walk in and say, hey, you know, I have the ability to do IPEN, I am escrow tab approved, you know, I'm on eNotary Log, here's all the credentials that your underwriters might need to know. Would you guys be willing to do that and then maybe provide that to Notary Star so we can put it with your tear sheets and all of those things in case people do buy your products?
Ronnie, how about I email that to you as soon as we're done? I already have it.
There you go. Would you?
Yep, definitely. I can send you something as well, Ronnie. We have that. And something else we're going to be releasing this week is a type of badge so that if you're IPEN and escrow tab enabled, it's a badge that you can place on your social media platforms or your email signature to let all of your customers know that you have that capability in addition to the talking points.
Got it. And I think it's going to be really important that, you know, and we'll provide this with the replays as they come in. We can always update that description, and we'll put, you know, pending in the description if you're watching the replay. And anybody here will need to go to the replay, of course, to watch it. You can go to our YouTube channel. But I want to share this story with you guys, and I want you guys, when I say you guys, the notaries out there to know this. I had the privilege of sitting in on a conference for escrow officers. It was a day retreat conference up in Sedona, and we got to hear from RON providers. We got to hear from IPEN about IPEN. We got to hear from attorneys and underwriters and all of these things. And here's what I want you to know, and I think this is very important for your sales tactic. I learned something so beautiful this day, and this is why I want a lot of you to invest in your local escrow associations like the Arizona Escrow Association, or if you live in Florida, whatever it is. Here's why. Because sitting there that day, I realized that title and escrow officers know so less. I'm trying to get the words out of my mouth right. They know less about this than we do. And some of them are actually terrified of, because they think they're going to have to do it, right? And becoming confident and being able to master your platform and understand what you can and cannot do with it, and how to help them have the conversations with their clients. Because remember, they have two types of clients. They have their signers and they have their lenders, right? They have two types of clients. So being able to have that conversation for them of, you know, my platform is approved by MERS, or, you know, where what are the words I'm looking for, Amy? MISMO and MERS, those are the
Ms.
Right.
Mo.
yeah.
Yep.
MISMO. Being able to say these things and say, listen, if you're not comfortable having that conversation, I can send you this tear sheet about my platform, and here's why you need more than one platform. I just put out an Instagram reel, one of my very first ones, I said, you know, this is why you need more than one platform. It's my most viewed thing I've ever done on Instagram, because people like really liked hearing I need more than one solution. So you've got to be able to have that that conversation. So I want to ask everybody that's a panelist here. I know Amy mentioned this, Amy Moses mentioned this, but do you guys have any marketing materials that you provide notaries to be able to put on their websites, or like tear sheets or all those things? Let's start with James, because I want to make sure we get some from you there too.
Absolutely, yes. And I'm happy to hear from the notary community about what they might need to help them. But we're currently working on a number of materials, particularly marketing materials, for that very measure, because your guys' success is our success. You know, you doing great business is great for us as well. So we want to help and support that any way we can.
And then I know Miss Amy Moses said that you guys definitely have a kind of like a marketing package as well, where you can plug it in, and these things need to be on your resumes and your business cards. You know,
Yep. We do have something coming out, and I just wanted to add on to your point too, Ronnie, about knowing more than the title companies, because I've worked with lenders for so many years. And right, it's one thing to ramp lenders up and get them to understand it. And then when I started working with title companies, I realized there is a big void in that vernacular, right? How it's used. So that can definitely be a benefit to you all if you come to the title and escrow companies as a subject matter expert in IPEN and RON, like you're helping them. And one thing I wanted to point out is that you hear a lot of times title companies say, well, there's no lender adoption, right? Lenders are adopting IPEN or RON. Well, if you start with the seller docs, that only requires you and the title company to be invested. That doesn't require lender approval. So that's a great place for you to start your conversation, is to get them to want to do the seller docs. And, you know, in our case, via IPEN. But then they can move on to the other documents that require lender approval. So just a key point that I wanted to add on to what you said, Ronnie.
thank you. And then Amy Seitz, do you have anything to add in on that?
Definitely. So we actually allow notaries to piggyback any ads that we create. It's created in a template, and they can go in and customize their own logo and use that. In addition, we've got, I'm pretty sure it's like 1,500 templates saved, where all they've got to do is put the content in there, and they can access that from their back office in our area. But we'll try anything to help them. And when we come up with something new, we are ready to go, and we'll do it right away. One other thing too, when you run into a situation where they say, well, that platform's not approved. I don't know if you've gotten there yet, Ronnie, or not, but that's the moment that you say, what do we do to get them approved? How do we make this happen? Because what we run into is platforms won't approve us until the client needs us. And then if you guys aren't driving that in there and asking that question of, well, then who do we call? Then we can't ever get approved. So we're kind of a rock and hard place.
Yes, and I appreciate you saying that. I want to ask Bill. I want to ask Bill this, because we've heard a lot from the platforms, and I want to come back to asking you guys a few things I think the notary community could use help with. But I want to ask Bill. Bill is actually the most successful RON notary I know in the country. Like, I talked to a woman who did a fair amount of transactions out of Florida. I've seen some, but Bill is actually, I have to beg him to talk to me sometimes, and he works for me. Like, he works for me like one day a week and writes 2 beautiful articles a month, but he has his own business. It's a partnership type of employment, and he's busy. And I'm very proud of him. So Bill, I'd like to know from you, what can you tell us about pitching yourself as a RON notary to your clients? How are you getting that business? What did you do? Who did you have to pay off or knock off to get where you are?
Is my comment. I guess I should preface it by a little thing that gave me an advantage was I was a remote notary prior to the pandemic. So in July of 2019, as soon as I was eligible to get remote notary, I got it. And then the pandemic happened and the world melted down, and I was in an excellent position because even when people were trying to get the professional, provisional licenses, it was hard to get through secretaries of state. And so I was already in a good position. But I went after, I initially kind of worked with escrow and just reached out. But what I did was I kind of specialized within escrow and kind of made it a point to carve out a niche. And I was actually talking with somebody about it the other day, where I went into Beverly Hills and I thought, that's an area where people are high net worth and there's lots of movie stars and producers and things like that, people that don't want to be bothered with meeting face to face. And I'm like, there's a niche that nobody's going to hit. so I went after that, and I picked up a client. And then once I was on board with once I could get one person to use me, then I would ask, who do I need to speak to about getting more of these? And so I was fortunate enough to kind of get put in touch with the right people at the right time. But that being said, it doesn't matter, because once you can kind of crack that nut and get through the gate, if they're impressed with you and you know what you're doing and you get them the results that they want, they pass your name around. All the escrow officers talk and they talk to each other. And so I get a lot of referral business just from that, where someone will say, hey, I was talking to Jane over at this escrow and she mentioned that I give you a call. And so that's been a big part of it, is word of mouth. And I actually, it doesn't hurt to, I say in every single email that I send out, if there's anything I can help you with again in the future, please let me know. I make sure that I have a link to my calendar on there. And so that's a big part of it, is just keep saying, give me more business, give me more business. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, give me more business, and they'll do it. They'll give you a lot of weird stuff. That's the one thing that I will advise you about when you're a remote notary and you're trying to get into escrow. Just like you're having trouble getting in with the buyer side of it, you'll get in with the seller side a lot easier through a lot of those places. But you have to remind them, you can give me people that are here in the United States that don't have COVID. Otherwise they're only going to give you people that are sick, or they give you people that are in Asia and the other person is in Abu Dhabi, and you're trying to coordinate all these time zones and everything. So that's kind of my experience with it.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
I want to know, one other thing is, how are you letting signing agencies know? Like, I know you from Unlimited Ink. I've been working with you when you were a paper notary. How are you letting your signing services know about your platform and which ones you have? Do you send them emails? Do you, I know you, so I already knew you were approved for every platform, and we'll try every one that you can get your hands on. But the ones that don't know you like I do, how are you letting those know as well?
The signing services, other than Unlimited, I don't, to be frank. I never pursued it.
Okay.
I got busy enough doing my own thing that I didn't need to go after it.
Okay.
So I know that, like on SnapDocs, for instance, when the pandemic first happened and everybody was in a turmoil, nobody knew what was going on, I had to learn to speak their language, and I had to actually explain to people, hey, if you're going to assign me on SnapDocs, but the person is in California, you need to give them an address in Nevada, otherwise they're going to think that it's in California and RON doesn't exist. So you have to do a lot of listening and picturing of what they're seeing. And that happens all the time in signings, all the time.
Yep.
You're practicing, like you talked about in the beginning, you should practice with other people and get to know the platform. But then there's little upgrades that happen, or there's little things that change. And so you have to be a good visual person. Like, you have to try and think, okay, what are they seeing here? And so I veered a little bit, but yeah, like SnapDocs, I had to kind of train them on what they needed to do so that they could use me.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to say this too to everybody here, and especially while we have three big platforms here. And we did address this with the escrow tab a little bit, but I want to touch on this with all three of you. As a signing agency owner, Bill brought this up, and it was one of the points I want to make sure we don't miss today. And I want all the notaries here to know about it. Signing order and SnapDocs does not have a way for you to mark yourself as a Cyberize It or escrow tab or e-notary log. And it makes it really hard for a signing agency or a title company using those platforms to find you. So you do need to email support at those companies as notaries and say, I am on these platforms and I need to know that you have put a place for me to be found. Now, Notary Stars and Online Notaries Public, our sister website for just online notaries, we have created a list, and you guys got an email to update. Amy gave us all of her notaries, and we created a list within Signing Order. And we're now sending that out to all the people who pull from the Notary Stars training. You know, these are the Cyberize It notaries that we know of. These are the e-notary log notaries that we know of. If Moses, if you want to provide us a list, we'll provide that along. These are the notaries we know capable of IPEN. We're creating lists, and we do have those 28 signing agencies that do turn to Notary Stars to kind of pull from our trained notary list. We'll happily add you, any of those notaries, because we're trying to create sub lists until these platforms that, shovel us all around, get it together and put little tick boxes. In Notary Stars, I think we are the only website that has every platform available for you to ticket and add it in. Can you do these things? You need to start asking other platforms like 123 Notary, if you can ever get in touch with the guy. You should ask, Notary Rotary. We need to be able to mark ourselves with this technology and have a space to put it. And a lot of those sites are out of date. And if they don't get up to date with it, stop spending your money with them because they need to be able to keep up with you and in your business. Do you guys have any suggestions on what notaries can do to kind of help the signing services platforms like Signing Order, ZigSig, SnapDocs, Notary Dash, all of those? Do you have any advice for notaries on how they can ask for that, or maybe make that happen? Or are you guys willing to go to them and say, hey, we'd love to see that happen? Don't leave me hanging.
Looked like Amy was going to talk. I was going to let her go first.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. I'm still formulating.
Ronnie, that's an excellent question. And it's something that we hear a lot from all sides of the ecosystem, right? Where technology needs to be updated, and lenders, title companies, other tech platforms, right, are hesitant to do it because it takes a lot of investment in time, money, resources. So I would just say, reach out to them and reach out to us, the tech providers, and it collectively, if we can all talk to those platforms, the more they hear from us, the more likely they'll be to invest those resources, right? Because nobody's going to do anything if they think, oh, it's just one or two people asking, right? It's the same thing when I was at MERS and we're trying to get companies to move forward with e-notes, for example. Oh, well, if I just have one lender asking for it, I'm not going to do it. And so we would say, we can only do so much. If they hear from their clients that they need change, then change is going to be affected. So I would say, continue to reach out to them often. Let all of our voices be heard, the notary voices, signing service voices, tech provider voices. And that's the only way it's going to happen, because that's when they're going to start investing those resources.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And that's, basically the title of this entire session is getting behind your platforms. I think the notaries have to learn that this is not just a product. You have to work with the platform and ask questions of your Secretary of State. You have to put it all together. There is a little research involved. Unfortunately, in this particular arena, there is not going to be a handout or a tear sheet or a button to click that's going to make it all come together. You're going to have to take what you've learned here today and then build upon it in order to get that information out. Now we're coming up on the end of the hour here, and I really want to open it up to questions from the people that have been here for the whole hour with us. You guys good for a good 15 minutes of Q&A? All right.
Ronnie, let me interject really quickly
Sure.
because Renee put it over here in the comments, and that is something that I did do. A lot of those sites under languages spoken, if there's an other, I did do that in the beginning as well. I would put other, and I would put, I would either put the platform that I was on, like Docterify, or I would put one of the things I was doing, or I would put remote online note. And she brought that up, and I forgot to.
Yep. Filling out what you can in those profiles to the best of your ability is a good start everywhere. Miss Beth, did you see any questions that stood out to you in the chat before? And while Miss Beth is thinking about that, go ahead and get those hands raised virtually. If you have questions, we'll answer as many as we can for the next 15 minutes. And then Miss Beth will start. Did you see anything in the chat that you thought needs to come out?
Nothing that wasn't already managed by our guest hosts.
Awesome. We'll start with Michael. Michael, you have a question there. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie. It's actually directed towards Bill. Having done what he's done, I'm under the assumption he's not doing these RON. I'm in California, so we don't have RON yet. So I'm still having a tough time wrapping my head around some of this, but I'm under the assumption he's not doing these at $20 or $25 a clip. So how is he marketing himself, number one, and number two, just an average? What is this remuneration to him for doing a remote online notarization?
So if I guess two prongs. So I do most of my work comes out of California. A good chunk of more than half of my work comes. Yeah, more than half of my work comes from California, and so I have to go by. It goes by my state laws. We're $25 in notarization, but because it's always under the guise of escrow. It's more like doing a signing, just a regular signing like you would get from a signing service.
So if they're putting $250 for notary fee on the closing disclosure, you're capturing that?
If I go out and market the business myself, yeah. If I can send it wherever I want if I'm going out and marketing it myself. If I get it obviously from a signing service, then I'm just like a paper signer where I'm taking what is being offered.
Got it. Okay.
But if I'm going out and going after it myself, and to be quite frank, I don't go to 250 in California because I try to attract more business by not going to that amount.
Got it. Okay.
Because I know they're used to it because of all the driving and things like that.
And I will tell you from working with Bill as a signing service, Bill will let you know if your fee is too low. Promptly.
Well, see that's the part where I'm confused on that. I guess leading into all this RON stuff, and again, since it's not here, I haven't really been on the right path to nail this down. But I was under the impression that the people that actually were controlling this were the platforms, and they were dictating this $20 or $25 signing remote online signing fee, and you're screwed and you're losing money to be a RON notary. So help clear that up for me. I'm more than open to hear that response.
I am so glad you were here today, and I want you to tell 5 people that.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, the $25 are like the Notarize or some of the other platforms where they've already established and gotten the business and done everything. But if you're going through a signing service, which is just like think of a signing service giving you a RON, just like them giving you a paper signer.
Okay.
So they're going to come to you and they're going to say, this is the price that we are offering. And then it's up to you to decide, do you want to take it? Or do you want to correct them and tell them why it's not feasible for you to take it for this amount? Because there are times, depending on the platform that you're on and what one they make you, sometimes they force you to go through a certain platform. And sometimes those platforms' fees are higher than what you're gonna make, or they're so close to what you're gonna make, like the $5 or $10, that I just tell them, find somebody else to do it, because I'm not gonna do it. But so that you do have some leeway. I mean, obviously, just like with a paper signing, if they're looking for somebody and nobody responds, then you say, I'll do it for this. Does that answer that?
But I want to also piggyback a little bit off of that. Just because a notary can charge $25 per notarization, when you're dealing with general notary work, you've got to look at the collective market, because if they've Googled and found you, they've Googled and found all the big box platforms, right? So I can charge $25 in Ohio per notarization, but if they got a 3-stamp document, do you think they're going to come to me if I tell them 75 when they can go to notarize and get it done for 45? You know, you've got to make your marketing in line with what those big box companies are doing, my company included, because if you charge higher, you have to show value as to why you're higher, because if they're looking at pennies to pennies, apples to apples, you might lose them just because you've overpriced yourself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Miss Amy. And then our next question is coming from Miss Doris. Miss Doris, so glad you could be here with us today.
Hi, thank you, Ronnie. I know that a lot of you notaries are signed up with a few, not just one platform, but a few platforms like Bill. I was just wondering, do you have to register with the Secretary of State for each platform that you sign up with? And what is the advantage, and how do you determine when you're doing a signing what platform you're going to use at that time?
So yes, you do have to advise. In Nevada, we have to advise the state of which platforms we're going to use, and we only have select ones that we can use. We're not one of those states where any of them are available to us. We can only use certain ones. So we do have to let them know. The advantages to having multiple platforms are because you're going to have multiple kinds of clients and multiple things. And while each platform does the same thing on its surface, you know, they all have different features. Some of them are not good for multi-camming, like where one person's in one place and one person's in another place. Some of them are just not user-friendly when it comes to getting through the startup, you know, the first part of it. Some of them are cheaper if you're only going to do 1 or 2 stamps, but they might be, you know, if you've got 10 stamps to do, there might be another platform that's a little bit better where they're just charging you a flat rate versus a per stamp rate. So it's just kind of, if you have all those tools in your toolbox, then you kind of know and you learn which ones you can use, and it makes it a lot more efficient for you.
And just to piggyback off of that, this is how I learned, because we're very limited at Arizona. We can only have 4 platforms, and you have to choose 1 IPEN source and then 3 RONs. And just to piggyback off of that, I am personally with Nexus ClearSign because I work with Amrock and they shell out a lot of general notary work. And even as big as I get, I love their 15-minute RONs so I can fit into my workday in between all these meetings that I have. So I have to have Nexus as one of them, right? So some of the times the platform, who the client is going to dictate, you know, the platform that you're using. That's why if you have multiple platforms, let's say you have a direct client, you get all 3 of those approved, and then you don't have to worry if you do it on any of them, unless they specifically say this lender needs this platform. The more platforms that you are, you know, able to get into your business, the more you get approved. And then sometimes you'll be able to say, well, does the title or the lender have any, what do you call it, reservations about any of these platforms? They say, no, you get to choose. But they may say, well, we can only approve this one because the lender can only approve this one. And that happens at Unlimited Ink Notary a lot. So we have eNotaryLog, Cyberize It, Notarize, all of them are approved with our clients. But then every now and then a title company say it has to be done through Notarize because that's only what the lender will do, or it has to be done through eNotaryLog because that's only one of the platforms. And then we have to break it down by state. So there is some, you know, dividing lines, but having multiple platforms, sometimes the client's going to dictate, and then sometimes you will choose if they don't dictate to you.
And Ronnie, I would add on to that. That's why when we talk to notaries, we're always advising have RON platforms and an IPEN platform or platforms, because I know speaking with lenders, a lot of lenders have big goals for taking large percentage of their portfolios RON, but for various reasons, you know, it's taking them a while to ramp it up. And so in the meantime, for loans that might be RON eligible, but can't be done RON or aren't being done RON, like, oh, they can do them via IPEN. And so they're, or in the state like California or North Carolina, right, where RON can't be done yet, but IPEN can be done. They're still getting advantages. And so we're advising, hey, have multiple platforms and the choices of IPEN and RON so that you can work with more title companies, more lenders, right, and meet the borrower demands as well.
And then
And I want to pick,
go ahead.
Oh. The other thing I want to point out is we actually had a platform go down this week because one of their APIs changed and it knocked their entire audio video offline. So everyone on that platform couldn't use them. So they had to use what other platforms were in their bucket. So keep that in mind as well. And also, Ronnie, they lifted that 4 limit on Arizona. You can have whatever you want now.
I will be looking into that.
Mhm.
But you mentioned something about technology going down. Unlimited Ink is completely set up to process on SnapDocs, or we can if it's an emergency. In what's the other one? ZigSig. We process through signing order, but we learned our lesson one day when we logged in, and it was almost 24 hours that signing order didn't work, and we had no backup solution. So it works the same way in all technology. You should have a backup service. I have 3 cell phones. You guys hear me talk about that a lot, but I've got to have, and they're all on different networks because I have to make this company run. So backup technology is a really great piece of advice. Our next question is coming up from Miss Debbie, and we're going to call it with the virtual hands after the 3 that are up here. Miss Debbie, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question there.
There it goes. Okay. My question is for Amy Moses. I'm in California, so I can't do RON yet, but how much IPEN work are you seeing from escrow and lenders in California, or in my case, specifically Northern California?
You're on mute, Miss Amy.
Started talking and then I was on mute. I was saying that's a great question, Miss Debbie. We just got asked that by a large lender last Friday on a call, because there are a lot of lenders specifically looking to California, right, to fill that void of not being able to do RON. So they want to start implementing IPEN. So say our volume is increasing as we start working with a lot more lenders who are looking for a solution there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And then our next question is coming up from Miss Diane. Miss Diane, when you are ready.
Okay. This is also for Amy Moses, because I'm really interested since I watched the last video with the IPEN. Are you currently doing IPEN in Florida? Has it
Yes.
been okay? Because I did talk to a
Yes.
couple of title companies, and I did put in the chat, and you said that you would do like a Zoom with the title company. Since I don't have all the information yet, I think enough to sell. I have enough to entice them to want to know what's going on.
Yeah, definitely, Diane. And so we talk to title companies, on a daily basis, and we would love for you to make the referral to us. And yes, then we can have a meeting with the title company. We can do the demo. You were the one that asked about not having a tablet yet, right?
Right.
Correct.
That's what I was going to
So
say.
if you don't have that tablet yet and can't do your own demo, as I alluded to, I know at the beginning of the session where some notaries are out there giving their own demos to title companies. If you can't do that yet, definitely just make the introduction and loop us in, and we'd be happy to join that meeting with you and give the demo to them. So right now we're working with several large nationwide title companies who have, hundreds of offices around the country. And then we're working with several big nationwide signing services as well, and then some regional and local ones. So It really varies, but we are doing business in Florida and doing signings in Florida. So yes, would love to have those conversations.
Perfect. And Ronnie, I watched the other one, and of course I'm here for this one, but you've done a really good job of, getting right in there to the nitty gritty and asking the questions and doing that. So I really feel more comfortable now, but thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're glad that you could be with us today. And then our last question from viewers is going to be from Julian Binbo. Julian, are you ready to ask your question?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everybody. I just have a question for, I think it's Amy Moses. I'm actually in the state of Virginia, and I'm actually trying to sign up for escrow tab. I do have the tablet. I think I talked to somebody there. His name was Shane. You might know Shane, I think. But anyway, my question is, similar to the other one was just asked, is there much work for IPEN in the state of Virginia?
The state of Virginia, that's where I'm actually located, Julian. So great question there. And yes, Shane, my colleague that you're talking to on the support desk. Yes, so Virginia, Northern Virginia specifically, but Virginia as a whole, we're having a lot of conversations here. Our president and co-founder, Brendan Weiss, who was on at the beginning and had to drop, he's located in Virginia too. So it's great because we're meeting in person with a lot of lenders and title companies here. And then we're getting pilots for a lot of large nationwide lenders started in Virginia because we have all parties that are raring to go. So yes, definitely opportunity in Virginia. And I know I told the story on the last webinar, but for those of you who weren't on that, we had a title company in Virginia actually contact us. And I asked, how did you hear about us? And they said, oh, from a lender here in Virginia and a notary who'd signed up to be an escrow tab enabled notary and presented escrow tab as an option to that title company. And so that's great, right? That's what we want, is for all of us to be having those conversations with the other parties in the ecosystem to start, generating the momentum for these digital signing solutions and the efficiencies that we can all gain. So yes, is my answer to that, Julian.
I'm sorry, do you have email? I need to email you something. No mind.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Julian?
Yes, do you have email?
An email? Is that what he's asking? It's breaking up a little bit.
We're all having a little bit of difficulty. Mr. Julian, could you type that as a question to Miss Amy in the chat? We are having a problem with your audio.
Okay, no problem, sure.
We can hear that part, great.
So I do want to get this meeting wrapped up for today. And before we wrap it up, don't drop off just yet because there's still an important tidbit here. So we did post an article on Notary Stars today, and I want to make sure that it's clear that what that means. So to my understanding, I want to get a clarity on this question. And I already talked to the different parties here, but technically any RON platform can do IPEN, correct? If I'm not mistaken. But yes, escrow tab, it's not just IPEN, it is a different type of technology. Whereas you can do IPEN on a RON platform where it's click and you have the signature, and it doesn't matter if you have the video or not, but in-person electronic notarization, what escrow tab does, and Miss Amy, you can help me with this, facilitate the rest of this because I don't know the exact words. It is a different type of technology. So you can do IPEN on any RON platform, but escrow tab, the technology you use is go.
Yes, so we use a forensically verifiable signature. And so when the borrower is signing, it's actually with a stylus or an Apple Pen, depending on the type of tablet you have. So it's forensically verifiable. It has the exact same 20,000 pressure points on your signature using this pen as it would if you were using the stylus, as it would if you were doing a paper and pen. Another difference is that we say, do whatever you would do in paper on the tablet. So if you need to make a correction, you can make a correction right there on the tablet. You can cross something out, you can initial something, whatever you would do with paper and pen, you can do that on the tablet with the stylus. So we just like to say, just like a paper signing, except it's electronic.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And here's what I want everyone watching to know, especially those that are Cyberized or eNotaryLog. Have that conversation with your platforms of how, if you haven't, of how do I use this as a IPEN technology, and then also know the difference between the types of technology so that you can sell those products if you have both to your clients, because those are things that they may be looking for. Can I do it one way or can I do it another? The cost of those solutions for you, those are things you have to work out as a business owner. And I wanted to make sure that we got that, into the conversation today. Now I'm going to ask all three panelists just to take a moment to please put in the chat, your contact information of how you'd like to be reached for any of our viewers. And I will make sure to take that and put it onto the YouTube replay as well, so that they can contact you. So whatever you're typing in, I will put that. And then I'm going to ask everybody that's viewing, if you'd like to see what was going on in the chat while you were listening or driving, take a minute, go over to the chat, and you just hit the three little dots at the bottom and click Save Chat. And that'll download everything that was typed in there, including those email addresses. Please go ahead and do that. Now, I can't put the entire chat on the YouTube because it'll have way too many characters, because I learned that last week. You can't put an entire chat on YouTube. I will try to link it over on a Google Docs. But if you just want to take a moment to do that, I'm going to start unpinning everybody from the screens at the moment. And you guys know what time it is. So if you don't mind to please turn on your cameras as I get everybody off and we can see everybody here that was attending today. Let's see, remove pin. I'm almost done with everybody. There should be just a remove all pins button. Let's see, there we go. Now we can see everybody there. And you guys know I have to say it this way. I want you to turn on your camera so that we can wave to those panelists that were here today. I want you to turn on those cameras and wave to yourself if you're watching the replay, and turn on the cameras to wave to those future notaries who are going to be watching this and learning from all the hard work that we've done. Let's give our panelists a big old Notary Stars wave and thank them for being here today. Your knowledge is so appreciated to us. And now I'm going to say it the way I normally say it. If you are not naked and you are not stuffing your face with a sandwich right now, turn on those cameras and wave. And Miss Beth, how do we really say it? You're on mute.
Want you to remember that we're all in the same storm, okay? But we're not all in the same boat. Some of us have yachts, some of us have canoes, and some of us are still dog paddling. So to be successful doesn't necessarily make you great. What makes you great is reaching back and helping someone else be successful. So take them along with you on your journey, guys. Reach back and grab another notary.
Thank you, everybody, for spending your time with us today. And I'll have this replay up today as soon as possible, so that if you want to go back and revisit it, just head over to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to see it there. Have a wonderful day.